Welcome on One-on-One with TJK, all our followers and listeners. We have promised you to bring you exceptional people who have done transformational work in this world. And please don't forget to subscribe and share with others. Today, we have a medical doctor, nutritionist, and an author. If you don't know him from the above, at least you've heard or seen him on Twitter, trending in Uganda and all over the world, or being dragged by so many people who say he's telling them to stay away from chapati and their pork. Please welcome Dr. Paul Kasenene, who is going to share with us a lot of knowledge. And get your pen if you don't have it, get your pad if you don't have it, and we are going to have a conversation that will change your life. We will talk about his book, we'll talk about his career, we'll talk about his family, and most important, you will learn the importance of health. Many people, ladies and gentlemen, have said that you are what you eat. I personally have interacted with Dr. Kasenene on so many different occasions. We both have love for exercise and eating healthy. Doctor, you've helped me to focus on what to eat and how to stay healthy in my life, and I appreciate that. Please tell us about yourself. Yeah, please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. The intro is done, and we are ready to hear you briefly talk about yourself. Who is Dr. Kasenene?
Thanks, Jack. So, greetings to everybody who is tuned in, and thanks for having me. So, Dr. Kasenene is a very simple guy. I'm a medical doctor by training. Ugandan, Munyankole from Sinjiro. And most people, kind of think I'm a nutritionist or somewhere in those lines, but I'm actually a medical doctor. Did my training at Makerere University. I did a stint at Cambridge University as part of my undergrad. And I've also done a training in nutrition, in lifestyle medicine and functional medicine in the Institute of Functional Medicine in the United States. I'm married with 3 kids.
You heard the man, ladies and gentlemen. I introduced him as a nutritionist. Most of us know him as a nutritionist because he teaches about what to eat and what not to eat, how to exercise and how to take care of our bodies. But you've also heard that Dr. Kasenene, trained in Uganda, is a medical doctor. He has passion for nutrition and eating healthy. We will hear back from him how he got to do that, the inspiration and mentors that led him to that path. We'll hear about his parents, his Sinjiro people. You will get to see your fellow Sinjiro man. We will get to talk about his book when he comes back, and we'll get to hear more about how he went from a medical doctor to what he does now. So we had already, you grew up, you're a simple man, you described Sinjiro, trained in Cambridge, and here we are. Please continue.
I associate myself as a guy who is passionate about helping people to achieve wellness, and mainly through simple, natural, and lifestyle methods. And I'm really happy to dedicate my life to this kind of cause, because I actually realized that many years ago in medical school and in my first part of my career that being healthy is extremely important. We all want that, but sadly many of us don't enjoy as much wellness as we should.
What made you switch from public health to nutrition and wellness? When was that spark? I ask some of these questions because we get them aside, but also because we have so many young people who listen to us and who are still trying to decide careers. So we'll talk about passion, we'll talk about what led us where we are. But for you, when was that spark to go to nutrition and wellness?
So, Jack, interestingly, I actually wanted to be a pediatric heart surgeon. That was my goal when I went to medical. But I like to say that when I finished medical school, I got sort of, I don't want to say corrupted, but, I got a job offer in a public health setting.
Yes.
And they were paying in US dollars. It was actually a collaboration between Johns Hopkins University and Macquarie University.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the job offer was so attractive that I temporarily put my heart surgeon career on hold. So I had this ordinary job because I was seeing patients, but I was actually sitting a lot. So it was actually more of a sitting job, and actually didn't live a very healthy lifestyle at the time. But about 2-3 years when I started that job, I tried to gain weight. Now, right now I'm lean and smaller, and many people, they don't actually believe I'm a doctor when they see me. But at that point in my life, I began to gain weight, and I had this nice little big belly, and everybody was like, "You look like a doctor." But then I wasn't feeling great, and I went to see a doctor friend that I worked with, and he took some blood, he did some lab tests and checked into my heart and stuff, and said, "Your cholesterol is high."
Yes.
And he's like, "You need to lower this." But it's like, if it doesn't go down in 3 months, I'm going to put you on cholesterol lowering drugs. And my pressure had actually started to go up a little bit at the time.
Yes.
So it was actually about 140/90. And when you're a medical doctor, you really don't want to tell people that your pressure is going up because you're supposed to be there.
Yes.
So for me, that was a turning point.
Your own health was the turning point that got you on this journey of helping others to become healthy. Those who are listening to us, you will pardon our interruptions. Internet gets in and out when you're doing these things long distance. Some of the things we've talked about with our guests, especially the ones we are filming from Uganda, is to also work towards get internet equity, meaning getting the broadband that we can use, all of us, and have stability. When I'm doing these interviews with guests from Toronto, with guests from the United States, we don't get these interruptions. At the moment we start doing these interviews with our guests from Uganda and other developing countries, these interruptions come in. When we come back, we will hear more about what made Dr. Kasenene move from public health, just doing medical doctor, to health and wellness. He tells you, as a doctor, he was sitting down, and that made me actually think we could have done this interview standing, because he is a man who wants you to stay active, the man who, part of your passion and my passion is also to bring as many resources to our people. And one of those resources I've been talking about is internet equity. Having broadband in a country, so when you are in Kisoro, Isinjiro, Gulu, you can have a conversation. I've talked about this with Robert Kavshenga, our mutual friend, that spaces would even be more if children and people in Kanungu could have internet bandwidth that allows them to listen and hear. So we will work towards that. We hold our Minister of ICT, Dr. Badiomunsi, who's from my village, and Collins, who heads Collins Wabiru, also a good friend of mine who heads the e-commerce, and I make sure I send them this link so they can know it is now public. We need internet and we need it stable so we can have this kind of conversation. So you are telling us that your own health led you to do what you do now. And I said, we should have done this conversation standing. Because people in Uganda.
So I have my standing desk right here.
There we go. Yes, I do the same.
Yeah.
In Uganda, I tend to think, especially people in rural areas, but even in Kampala, that the bigger belly you have, the better you are, the richer you are. So a doctor without a belly, I can see how they say it. In fact, I have a former student of Nyaka who said, Papa, I really, really want to put on weight. And I spent a lot of time trying to convince him that that's unhealthy. He needs to stay as lean as he can the dairy is going to cause more diseases. And I know that is something many Ugandans talk about. So, question for you. Do you think Ugandans are trying to live a healthy lifestyle? It's a general question.
So I think that really depends on a number of factors. That depends on what age group they are in, what social economic status, what information they have. Well, I can say that there is a change, there's a trend. We are seeing more and more people being aware that it's important to live a healthy lifestyle. I would say a big number of people in Uganda still do not live a healthy lifestyle. And this is primarily because they do not see an immediate, association between their lifestyle and their health. Many young people are, first of all, probably limited by resources, but then are also in situations where each and every day you go out there, you drink your soda, you eat your burgers, you eat your fries, you eat your chapati, you eat your cake, and nothing is happening in the short term. And so when they see this Dr. Kasenene coming up with all these, recommendations that, eat healthy, eat more natural food, they don't really appreciate this. However, like I said, we're witnessing a growing number of people, especially those in their late 30s onwards, beginning to appreciate the importance of living a healthy lifestyle and trying to make changes. But I'll tell you, the other day I put out a poll on Twitter and I just asked, how many of you still put sugar in your tea? And actually, I think it was about 25% who say they don't put sugar in their tea, but 75% say they put sugar in their tea, and about 20% say they put 3 or more spoons of sugar in their tea. Yeah. So while they are making progress, we still see that there's a lot of people who still haven't yet jumped on the live healthy bandwagon for many reasons, like I just shared.
So let me tell you a quick sugar story. I haven't had sugar in my tea or my coffee, which I'm enjoying right here, in 12 years of my life. It might be 15, but I will go with 12. And this is why. And ties into the point you make, lack of information, lifestyle, why people don't focus. My mother, who grew up in Kanungu and never had much when she was growing up, when we, the children, started making money, we wanted our mom to get things she never got when she was younger. One of that is sugar. I made sure mom never had sugar as a child. She gets to her 60s, now sugar is there. Then she gets diabetes, then she gets high blood, and the doctor tells her, you need to quit sugar. You know what my mom said to the doctor? I grew up with no sugar all my life, doctor. Now I have an opportunity to have my sugar. And you want me to leave it? The doctor said yes, and my mother said, why? Because it's not good for you. And she said to the doctor, those children at Nyaka school who are in primary one are putting sugar in their drinks. Why don't you try to work on those? And leave me all day to have my opportunity to enjoy my sugar. So what happened then, doctor? I told my mom, let's make a deal. I will quit sugar as long as you quit it too. And we made a deal. Mom lived on her milk without sugar until she passed away at 94 years of age. That quitting sugar helped.
Wow.
And somebody listening to us, you will get inspiration to do that. So lifestyle, you said, it depends on your circumstances. I want to, at least for our listeners, for you to make it clear that whether you are in Kanungu, Isindiro, Kisoro, you can adopt a good lifestyle. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. I know you're going to talk about exercise, you're going to talk about supplementing your food. We grow up in villages, we don't have money when it comes to Kampala. We want to fly everything, we want to order everything, we want to drink the biggest beers, we want to have as much wine as we can. So I hope we can get into that conversation. So give an advice to young people who are now getting chronic diseases at younger age. or any
Yeah.
people are getting diabetes, they are on high blood pressure medication. What advice would you give them?
Before I get into that, I wanted to just comment about what you mentioned earlier. My mom is a nurse, and she said that when she was growing up, especially when she was doing her nursing in Fort Portal in Virica Hospital, she likes to tell a story that there was no diabetes. I mean, like, you couldn't find a patient with diabetes easily. You actually literally had to go to someone's home to see diabetes. And then suddenly, but at that point, people were eating their natural foods. So when you go to this, my dad has a farm in Mubende, and one time we were coming out of church, and I was very surprised that outside the church, the lady there was selling, fried chips with soda and mandazi and cakes.
Yes.
And I was like, this is what people are eating today. And this is what people in the rural areas believe is good life and good food. And this is why we are also seeing a rise in chronic diseases in the rural setting. So this message is for everybody, especially, because we, like you said, the story of your mother, we grow up, many people in resource limited settings, seeing, wealthy people taking sugar and drinking soda. And when you have a bit of money, you want to have that. But, the advice I would give to young people listening is that, health is not merely the absence of pain or disease. Health is a state of complete vitality and energy. And just because you don't have pain does not mean that you are healthy. And what people also need to know, young people, is that we live in a world with natural laws, where these laws are not there to respect or disrespect anybody. They are just laws. And I like to use the law of gravity, where if I drop my mouse, this is going to fall. Now, what we tend to see is that while people are eating their unhealthy food now when they are younger, a time will come when they are older and they start to suffer the consequences of their choices. And then they will appreciate. And so what I would like young people is to raise awareness and say, look, what is good for me now and in the long run? Because if we don't do that, we end up having people who are my age, in their early 40s, getting heart attacks and clots and strokes. And, and now they're struggling to take back their health. Being healthy is not a punishment. Eating healthy food is not a punishment. It's actually something that is good for your body. But I do understand the sentiment of the young person, Jack, who says, look, I'm hustling, I'm trying to survive. It's not as affordable to eat in a way that you subscribe to. But while I do appreciate that, I also do recognize that Africa is blessed with so much food, especially Uganda. People ask me, if I don't eat chapati, what should I eat? I mean, we can talk about that. But I say, look, there are many, many options. There is maize in Uganda. There is gonja. There is, nuts. There are fruits. There's bananas, bogo. There's so much stuff you can eat that is natural. But the young person needs to understand that they have their whole future ahead of them, and they shouldn't mortgage their bodies right now, just to please the tongue, or just because, there's a trend or a fad. And we must especially not lose our cultural heritage that promoted us living a healthy lifestyle. So I know sometimes it's not an easy message when people are younger and not yet sick, but it's something we need to embrace sooner rather than later.
Wow. So when President Museveni is talking to people to not worry about bread and eat cassava, I think he's read your book. He's calling everybody need to follow a doctor's orders here and leave all this processed stuff. I know there is more you can talk. I've hosted people here, including scientists who are in food science, and they've talked about the content of our food. We are blessed with food. But to also re-emphasize your point, from Uganda perspective, we have all these natural resources, natural food. For those of us who live in outside countries, here in the United States, it's very expensive to live a healthy lifestyle. When I go to buy broccoli, When I'm on that, our fasting and our juicing, I spend
That's-
more money than if I just pull up at McDonald's in a window and have cheeseburger and French fries. They have sales every week on Tuesdays where you can pull up at McDonald's and get a full meal for $1.50. If I go to
Wow.
avocado, 3 small little disgusting avocados are $5. So poor people buy frozen food. It's cheaper. Eat junk. But we are not talking about United States. We are talking about you and the work you do, which is transformational, which has helped so many people. But you've also gone beyond teaching people how to eat, beyond tweeting about it every single day. And we'll talk about Twitter. Please do tell us about your book, Eat Your Way to Wellness, which is available on Amazon. We'll put a link in here down. Author to author, writing a book. Why did you write this book? And have you written any more?
So thanks for that question. So I wrote the book Eat Your Way to Wellness literally to end the food confusion. Now, earlier you asked me about what made me leave the public health to nutrition and wellness. What I can tell you is one of the people who actually inspired my journey was an American doctor called Joel Fuhrman. So when I was in the process of figuring out what do I do with my cholesterol, I don't want to take cholesterol lowering drugs. My sister-in-law who lives in New Jersey says, there's this guy, he's crazy, he's called Joel Fuhrman, but you know what? He says he can reverse all these diseases with food. Check him out. So I did, and I read his book called Eat to Live. It was an amazing book because he made claims that appealed to me. He said, I can reverse asthma, I can reverse heart disease. So I began following his principles. I even met him a couple of times now. And I realized that, you know, his message seemed radical. Don't eat very little meat, don't eat vegetables, you know. And I followed his approach for a while, and it had amazing results on me. I mean, I lost 15 kilos in 1 year. My asthma literally went away. My allergies disappeared. My cholesterol came back to normal. My blood pressure, you know, it actually dropped to levels I never thought were possible. My wife used to call me Mr. 100/60 because my blood pressure was 100/60. So I followed his philosophy for a while, joined the Functional Medicine Institute of the United States. And then I met doctors that eat a lot of meat. Like, eat a lot of meat. You know, there's this, you know, we have Paleolithic history. Yes. And I got really confused. And I asked myself, if I, a doctor, someone who has studied nutrition, can be totally confused about food, what about the common man? And so I went on a journey to actually understand food better. And I believe that my understanding of food was a unique blend between what I learned from Joel Fuhrman, my study of nutrition, but more importantly, from asking myself, why is it that our grandparents who had no knowledge of nutrition lived long and healthy lives? You just said your grandmother died at 94 years old, and we're not seeing that today. So as I read the book, I began to notice dots and patterns, and I said, this is what people need. People need to know the truth about food. And so after years of research, I finally figured out, I think, what is the best way to go. Now, the book is Eat Your Way to Wellness, but the subtitle is 7 Principles, for optimal health and your ideal weight. And perhaps I can, share the principles in summary, what they are, so that people can actually, get a feel. Now, the person who inspired me most, actually, I don't know if I gave her enough credit in the book, is my mother's aunt, who I spent countless hours with, asking her about what you guys eat, why are you so lean? I know maybe I'm digressing a bit, but one of the things that really fascinated me was in my study of functional medicine, we began to learn that your genes only predispose you. They don't make you sick. Your lifestyle is the biggest factor. But when I learned that, I took a step back and I remembered a conversation I had with my sister and my cousins. I was trying to get them to lose weight and eat better. And one day, one of my cousins, she just yelled at me and said, "Doctor, leave us alone. We are from Western Uganda and we have big bones and big hips and all this kind of stuff." And then at that very moment, I said, "Look, we share grandparents. Our grandparents, who we both lived up to their 90s, were all my current size. On my father's side, same story. My grand-uncles and aunties, same story. There's not one case of obesity in my grand-uncles and aunties. So I asked them, so where did you get the genes? I'll ask my cousins to be big. Because clearly, where you're saying you got them from, people are not big. So there must be something you're doing differently. So my interaction with my aunt brought me into an understanding of things. And by the way, I'll tell you this, Jack, that many of the things that the West raves about as new things, intermittent fasting, eat this and that, these are principles that we followed for hundreds of years. And that's why we were so healthy. So I integrated these in the book together with, of course, research and modern science. So the first principle was 90% of your diet should be plant-based. Now, this is the most controversial of all of them because, we live in a world where people should eat a lot of meat. The media is saying, to lose weight, get on a keto diet, carnivore diet. But I'll tell you very simply that the human body does require some animal foods. But all the people who have lived long lives in the world have eaten very small amounts of animal foods. And the amount that is actually suitable is 300 grams per week. Now, I know that sounds little because an egg is 50 grams.
People are going to come now complaining about their pork. Keep going. Yes.
Imagine an egg is 50 grams.
Yes.
A drumstick of chicken, not a quarter piece, but a drumstick is 100 grams. So if I eat 2 drumsticks and 2 eggs, that's 300 grams. That's it for the week.
For the whole week?
For the whole week.
Not a day?
No, that's for the whole week.
So one lusania in one day of pork wrapped in that foil is what, like 1,000, 2,000 grams? And
it must be 2,000. We used to take pride in eating a whole kilo of pork. That was like our thing when we were at uni. But you see, while your body can take a lot of animal foods, and even if you eat the right animal foods, there's a way in which they don't just give you protein, but they accelerate the aging process.
Ooh.
And so they can keep you healthy, but they make you age faster. So even these long-lived populations we see, we haven't studied a lot of them in Africa, by the Western world, but they talk about the Sardinians of Italy. There's even a group in California, in Loma Linda. These guys ate little meat. Now, our meat-eating hunter-gatherers, although they don't get sick from heart disease, and they don't live beyond their 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yeah. So what we realized is, again, I went to my aunt. How much animal food did you eat? And she said, we ate animal food 5 times a year. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, on Christmas, on Easter, and if my uncle came to visit.
Oh, yeah.
You were wealthy, you ate animal foods on Sunday. So it was once a week. Now, you look at that generation, they were very healthy. Now we have 5 times a day and we are trying to justify it through protein. You need protein, but where did our grandparents get protein? So you can get protein from plant foods. And that's why we say people should not think that plant diet means low protein. That's not true. Because gorillas, the strongest animal, elephants, the biggest animal, they don't eat any animal foods and they're full of protein. So they must have muscle and protein. So where do they get it from plants? So honestly, the first principle is 90% of your diet. If you want to live a long and healthy life,
yes, sir. Not
just healthy, but even long, less animal foods. You don't have to stop them. So this idea of a lusania of pork is just literally very harmful to your health. I'll talk about pork later if we have a chance to. But anyway, second principle was 90% of your diet should be real food. And that's a very simple concept. Unprocessed, whole, and refined. I like to give simple examples in Uganda.
Yes.
If you want to eat your beef 10% of the time, fine. Eat beef, not sausage. Okay?
Yes.
If you want to eat your mango, eat a mango, not mango packed in a box. That is now a part that you have to eat. Even things like if you want to eat maize, not posho. So once you keep this natural phenomenon, you find you're eating less sugar, less bread and chapati, all these refined things, eating less processed meats, less soda, less deep fried foods. So it's a very simple concept. And in Uganda, we have lots of food. A few other principles, I was like 50% of your diet, in my opinion, should be vegetables, what we call greens. And if you're very active, you can have some fruit. 50% of your diet ideally should not be cooked food. So you'll be eating uncooked food. That's not very hard because we eat lots of fruit, which is not cooked, rarely cooked fruit. That can give you a good percentage. You can have a vegetable smoothie, the ones we always have with you and Robert, They're uncooked. Have a salad. So you need to have a lot of vegetable foods. And then another principle was that eat a variety of foods. And I really go into depth, talk about each food group, what nutrients you can get, what benefits, the best types. So that's eat a variety of foods, what we call the balanced diet. Balanced diet is not proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Balanced diet is eat from the different food groups, eat vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes, which are the beans and the peas, whole grains, starches, root vegetables. You can't believe, I was telling people the other day that I was reading about how the West is talking about green bananas, millet, and yams as the new superfoods. Can you imagine matoke, millet, and yams?
Bogoya.
So these are our natural foods. So I put it there. The last principle I talk about is when should you eat and what should you eat?
Yes.
Now, the West is raving about intermittent fasting. Eat an early dinner and a later breakfast and, fast 16 hours. It's very healthy. But my aunt told me they ate their dinner at 6:30 because they couldn't eat when it was dark. And then they woke up in the morning and they didn't eat. They just went into the field to dig. And later, around 10:30, 11, they took a break. That's when they broke their fast. The word is breakfast, break the fast. Breakfast doesn't mean in the morning. So in this book, there's all this information, and I try to explain the different things, red meat versus white meat, in an Ugandan context that can be understood by Africans, but also that is not so far off for people who are not in Uganda. So the book, the inspiration was that.
Yes.
It took me, the truth is this, I can tell you, and maybe I can share this. When I wrote the book, what happened is I was so passionate. I just started writing. I had never written a book before, no advice. When I was done, I'm like, finally here. I sent it to an editor and they're like, this book is going to be like an encyclopedia. It's like huge. So I had to cut out. So now I had to go, okay, I had to cut out a bit of things to make it a volume size that is more readable.
Yes.
Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, I've gotten feedback that, I cut out some useful things. So there's a revised edition coming out in the next 1 or 2 months, which tries to answer common questions that people have raised to that one. I do have another book coming out. I am writing another book.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I'm writing 2 other books concurrently.
Yes,
one is called Extraordinary Wellness. And
say
the
it
other
again.
is
Say it again. Say the book again.
Wellness.
Okay.
And the second one is Extraordinary Healing.
Extraordinary. Yes. Ooh.
So why extraordinary wellness? Because as much as food is important, in my practice, in my clinic, I see guys who eat well, they don't exercise. They don't sleep enough. They don't manage their stress well enough. So health cannot be just eat a healthy diet. It's got to be live a holistic lifestyle. So all these other things are going to be featuring more in the book. And even certain hacks about or tweaks or secrets that can help you live longer. Like taking a cold shower, It's something like that people may not really understand, but it's very instrumental for your longevity. So, the power of saying thank you and gratitude. So Extraordinary Wellness is coming out. It's going to be a little bit more holistic than just eat your way to wellness. And it's going to have an interesting twist to it that I hope people will like, because most of us, when you see me right now, you see a solid human body. But the human being at a molecular level is a ball of energy.
Yes.
Atom. So once you understand this, you realize that our bodies are also influenced by simple energy like your cell phone, the sunshine, even someone's negative energy around you.
Doc, don't give up too much. We want people to buy this book coming up. We want them to be able to go back and look what Eat to Live by Dr. Fuhrman. Dr. Fuhrman is still alive, right?
He's still alive, yeah.
Please connect me to him. I want to talk to him. I want to learn more. You also mentioned something I want to go back and explore. I stopped him from giving information in the new book. Who write books, writing books is like an infection. Once you write one, you write another one. I actually forgot my copy in Michigan. I'm interviewing you from my room here at Harvard University, where I'm spending 1 year. So my book, your first book, which is autographed, is back home. As author, I always want you to go find a book. Stop borrowing your friends' books and read it. Go buy it, put it in a library, create libraries of books of people you know. It's different from just a book you write. Now add on your library, Eat to Live. You already have, I think everyone who's listening to us has this book. You already have Eat Your Way to Wellness. If you don't get it autographed and put it there. Then a new book which is coming up too, actually, put yourself on the list. Please, doctor, let me have an initial copy to read before, and we'll start promoting and getting people to live longer. In your comments also, you mentioned Loma Linda. I was born and raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, doctor.
Oh, really?
I've never eaten pork in my life. One thing that have broken rules within 70 days, drink coffee, which is also, I know, is harmful for my body. And studies that have been done at Loma Linda University in California, which is a Seventh-day Adventist university, has shown that Seventh-day Adventist people live longer because we have a health message from Ellen G. White. In fact, many people know Seventh-day Adventists as people who don't eat meat. Plant-based health. Our bodies, now I'm going to preach, are temples. Temples of Christ. And so our belief, the Seventh-day Adventist, is if your body is the temple of Christ, then treat it that way. Feed it things that will enable it to function without poisoning it. You get the poison in the foods you eat, the sodas with all that carbon, you are poisoning your own body, and then it's not going to function. So most people in Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarian or even vegans. And then in Bungagava, a man who used to work at Shell had started soya milk in Uganda and soya products to replace tea. So it's not that you can't have coffee, you can't have tea. There are all these products that are made plant-based that you can get. Enough about the Bible and Seventh Day, but Loma Linda has done huge work in this. Bugema University and Bugema College, Seventh-day Adventist founded. The pastors are going to be cheering for this, for the Prague of Seventh Day, but Muslim people don't eat pork and they tend to live longer. So we know this. We are going to buy the books and continue to grow. The next thing I was going to ask you, which you've already touched on, is when a person walks up at your clinic in Mugorobi, where I have been, and they are overweight and they want to lose weight, what's the simple 3 things you tell them to do without going through the entire process of intake of the patient?
Okay, so the 3 most important things for you to lose weight are: first, you must eat a healthy diet. And this diet is high nutrient, low calorie. It's not eat less, it's eat right.
Whoa.
Okay?
Writing down stuff. Moment, our Twitter followers, tweet that and quote, tag Dr. Kasenene. We'll give the Twitter handles up before we sign off. Okay? Number 1.
Yeah. Number 1, eat right. Eat a healthy diet. Eat right, which is not necessarily eat less, but eat right. This must go hand in hand with timing your meals well, so that you're not eating the right food at the wrong time. And once you get these 2 hacks right, you're on your way to better weight.
Wow.
The second thing is you need to get your body to start burning fat. Okay?
Fat. Another tweet.
Yes. Now, most people would think this means take a fat burning supplement. No, This means that you need to allow your body to utilize what you've eaten as energy and start to burn fat. The 3 ways this will happen to you is 1, if you exercise. Okay, so no weight loss without a consistent exercise plan. 2, if you do intermittent fasting. Okay, yes. And 3, if you get the right antioxidants in your body. So we help people to understand how to apply this. Then the 3rd thing we do for each person is we try to understand, do you have anything in your health or lifestyle that could be an obstacle to weight loss? Because sometimes you find this person who eats right, who exercises, but just won't lose weight. Guess what? You could have a thyroid issue. Okay. You could have a vitamin D deficiency.
Yes.
You could have insulin resistance, which is the condition that comes before diabetes. You're not diabetic, but you have insulin resistance. You could have a lot of stress in your life. And so if you don't address these common obstacles to weight loss, or you don't support the body to lose more weight, to manage these obstacles, then people struggle. The last thing I like to tell people is I like to understand their motivation around why they are doing this. Because if you're trying to lose weight to just, achieve a particular goal, to go to a wedding or something, these are not usually sustainable long-term. So we try to understand your motivation and try to help you get on the journey. The last thing we do is we understand people's hormones. And I know we can't really, that's why I like people to come to the clinic, because sometimes you ask me on social media, I can't really explain this, unless I'm with you personally. But let me explain to you what this means very simply. Human beings are biological beings. They are not logical beings. If I put a cake in front of you, the logic is don't eat it. The biology is eat it. What's going to win? Biology. So, and what drives biology? Hormones. So if you have hormones that are making you crave, hormones that are making you store fat, it's very hard to be successful on a program. So sometimes you need to get into a holistic plan. But if you follow the 3 things, exercise, eat well, stay hydrated, usually in a consistent manner, you should be able to lose weight. And that's why we're always sharing these tips on social media. And most people will do well. I can't tell you, Jack, how many people, literally hundreds of people, have sent messages saying, just by following your advice on social media, I lost 25 kilos. But there's that extra person, there's that odd person who follows the advice and doesn't get the result. So that's when you need to come in and we say, look, how can we help you? And believe me, everybody can lose weight. But weight loss is the number 1 reason people actually come into our clinic.
Well done, well said. You are struggling with weight right now, our listeners and those who listen from now. These are records that are going to stay forever. The doctor says everyone can do it. 3 quick things. I've done these things. I used to have a big belly, doctor. It's gone completely.
Wow. I think I've seen a picture.
And I've never been in your clinic. And when you look at when you turn off this, you see the family right here, the kids. I'm trying to do the same thing with the children. Nicholas, who is in college, is completely different because he can manage his own and he's a kid of himself. But here we are, eat health, burn fat, intermittent fasting, and you already talked about intermittent fasting made easy. If you eat at 6 p.m. at night, and wait until 10 a.m. tomorrow to eat your breakfast, you've already done your fasting.
Exactly.
But in the morning, I think the trouble here in these countries we live in, which was not in the villages, you wake up and chocolate is there and a glass of wine is there. It is 10 p.m. You are still out enjoying the pork. People who eat pork enjoying these snacks. So we are eating even at midnight. In fact, one time I was in Uganda, went to take a nap at 7 p.m. in my own house in the village. And at midnight, the house girl comes and, director, wake up. I say, what's going on? I said, dinner is ready. 12 a.m.
Wow.
And happens as we speak right now. Somebody in Mbarara, in Kanungu, is going to eat dinner at 12. And then they will wake up early in the morning and eat breakfast at 7. So intermittent fasting, you're telling us 12 hours, and we can do it. So let's jump to breakfast. You wake up early in the morning on a Sunday, doctor, your wife and children are there. What do you grab for breakfast usually that gives you lots of energy to move on?
So first of all, I just want to reiterate this principle that, if you're going to do intermittent fasting, it's not going to always be possible to eat breakfast at 8 a.m. So while breakfast is a very important meal because you're breaking the fast, it doesn't really have to be at 8 a.m. So what I tend to tell people who struggle, because typically in the past and even now, many people's breakfast is going to be white bread with margarine and jam, sometimes with cornflakes and milk with sugar, or sausages and fried eggs. This tends to be the traditional breakfast, but all this stuff is not healthy. So I tell guys, my recommendation is what my family does. On Sunday, I'll tell you our breakfast is pretty much standard now. We will have gonja. We have this thing that gonja is the new sausage. I'm sure you've seen it somewhere.
Oh, yes. In your tweets.
Yes. Yes. I mean, gonja is amazing. It's sweet. And there's so many things you can do it. You can roast it. You can steam it. You don't necessarily have to just, I don't know what guys do, but so we have gonja. We always will have lots of tomatoes. You can boil them. Yeah.
Eggs.
So we have fruit. So basically it's fruit and grains always. So we have fruit, pineapple, watermelon, mangoes. These tend to be the favorites in our home. So it's have fruit. Sometimes we make them into smoothies. So sometimes you get, and my favorite smoothie, which I found the kids love, is bananas with cashew nuts, with cocoa powder, organic cocoa powder, and some other fruit. So either it will be a blueberry, which is not very common in Uganda, or a mango, and then we'll put in some chia seeds and a little bit of matcha. So this smoothie can be a big part of our breakfast. Now, sometimes we'll have whole grain bread of the dough variety, like spelt bread. We'll always have, sometimes we'll have some nut spreads, like we usually use peanut butter, but organic peanut butter. But in summary, what I would tell guys for breakfast is this: start your day with 2 to 3 glasses of water, hydrate the body, then eat fruit.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay, fantastic. Then eat fruit. And in Uganda, nobody has an excuse about fruits. We have bananas, watermelons, mangoes, apples, pawpaws, everything. So have 2 servings of fruit. Then if you want to eat something else, have some grains. So these grains can be oats, organic oats. It can be millet porridge, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Because our millet porridge is the superfood. Millet is actually one of the superfoods. It could be whole grain bread. It could be whole grain cereal. And then what should you put? I don't recommend cow's milk. So I'm like, get almond milk, get cashew milk. My wife makes cashew milk at home. It's very, very easy. We talked about a guy who was making soy milk. So you can get plant-based milks, although people don't technically call them milk, and have them there. And then once in a while, have your animal food. So that tends to be, for me, eggs, local eggs. So you can fry them if you want once in a while, but generally a boiled egg would be nice. So it's usually around fruit. It's usually around grains and, the occasional animal foods, and lots of vegetables, tomatoes, carrots, anything. So if it becomes complex in Uganda, I'm a working guy, what do I do? Grab your banana in the morning, make sure you have your bogoya at home. Just grab your 2 bogoyas. And if you don't have time to go into grains, that's it. Bogoyas have apples, they don't need anything for preparation. But even when you get to the office, ask the tea lady to give you maize. Ask them to give you gonja. The reason why they don't sell those things in offices and in work and in supermarkets or in restaurants is because no one is asking for them. But if people started asking for them, they will be on very high demand.
We will make them. So our Banyankole people with so many cows are now going to go on a rampage. No milk?
Jackson, if we have time, I want to tell you about milk because it's very important.
That means we are going to have to do another interview, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to keep the doctor too long. The patients are lining up in the office. Twitter is buzzing. There are things to respond to. As we conclude, if you had a chance, Doc, we've already talked about this. If you had a chance to give yourself advice at a younger age, what advice would that be?
Based on my experience where I am now, my first advice is seek. Okay. Now, knowledge doesn't mean necessarily only go to school. It means read widely, experience different cultures, try different things, whether it's learning to play music or to, a sport. Once you've experienced many things, ask yourself, what am I good at and what am I passionate at? Because once you answer these two questions, you will very easily find where you fit in. Then invest all your time or most of your time in this area, but stealing from Jim Collins of Good to Great, make sure it's something that you can earn a living from. Once you start this process early, your life will be more meaningful because you will not be struggling to be who you are not. Yes. And you will be able to have impact. But I would also advise my younger self to invest in myself beyond knowledge. Invest in my health, okay? Invest in building skills. Invest in meeting new people and networking. You can't believe I would not have this session with you if we didn't know each other, if we had a network. Many times our people, younger people like myself, it takes so long to reach a point where we are making impact simply because we didn't have these simple facts. But I would also tell a young person that please, it's important not to associate young people as a time in your life to do nothing of value. Yes. Because many of us growing up, we thought until you're 21, just waste your life away. Eat, drink, be merry. Think about that when you're 21. It's an exciting time to be alive. The internet is revolutionizing things. Let me tell you a quick story before we wrap up. Yes. When COVID hit, Jack, and I had just learned about this and I was fired up, my wife and I were debating what should we do with our kids. They were at home. So being very active on social media, I knew my daughter is very artistic because she's very artistic. She loves art. She likes drawing. She loves, camera, digital photography. I said, why don't we do a course in digital marketing? Guess what? Went on Udemy, got a course. Unbelievable. It was on discount from $130 to $15. She did a course in digital marketing. You won't believe, for a good part of 2021, she handled 80% of my postings on social media.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
She's so skilled in digital media that she will come to me and say, Daddy, today you had this post. It was buzzing the internet. This kind of post is what you should be posting more of. This kind of stuff you post, nobody's interested in it. She gives me insights that I would pay thousands of dollars for. And now, one day, cousin of my wife, so impressed by this story, gave her $100 and said, I would like you to do work for me. So at this young age, she's able to start exploring her talents, earn a little bit of from it, be excited by it, and still make an impact. So, Jack, you're the guru of this stuff, so I won't go too much into.
No, I know what you are talking about, and I've said this so many people, not just young people. Even you have adult working people who are spending time watching Arsenal and Manchester United, and wasting their ways posting things on TikTok just to be popular, just to be the Zaris, while the social media influencers are making money and content creators are making money. Your daughter now is my hero right there. Take something so simple and see the niche and use it. Please encourage her to continue doing this. I have so many books I would like her to tweet about. Here is one, here is another one. You have this, I will make sure you get it.
Yes, I have that, and I need to get the next one as well.
We have written 5 extra books for children. And
wow.
Like your daughter. Yeah, I told you, writing is like infectious. You sit on a plane and start writing something, and all of a sudden I have a book for children. I have a new one, Secret Fights COVID, which is a book I wrote during COVID. A young kid basically talking to the grandmother, explaining what COVID is, why they are not in school. I will get some to your sister's house, so when you get to New York, you have those copies. But
I would love that, Jack.
in essence, I know this has been an hour of a conversation. So many advice here that so many people need. I need motivation to continue doing what I'm doing. I also want to plug in a little bit of exercise. I joined this group in Kampala called, what is it called? 100 days. 100
Yes.
days of planning. Moses is in it. I know Robert, the headmaster, does another group. But since December 12th, Doc, here giving my report, I've been going at least for 3 miles, which is 5K. Their minimum is 3K, every single day, non-stop. Right after this conversation,
Wow.
I'm going to go out.
Amazing.
I committed to do 100. I sent you one of the people who were asking me questions, Kiza Kimbugwe, to come and do. I'm trying to get Humphrey in your corner. You talked about breakfast and didn't talk about coffee. Robert, with Rujeo Coffee, my friend Sam Gisha was doing a Nengo Coffee. What should we do with the coffee as we finish and wrap up? And what?
So coffee is actually an interesting beverage because it has lots of health benefits. And it can be good for your heart, it can be good for your liver, it can be good for diabetes. Unfortunately, or maybe the caveat is that not everybody gets the same benefits. So while for some people it's an amazing beverage, for others it can have negative impacts. So if you take coffee and it doesn't affect you adversely, I'll say get an organic good coffee and have about 1 to 2 cups a day. More than that can lead to unnecessary sort of addiction. But I changed my outset. I used to say coffee was not good for health, but now we know that it can be good for some people, especially if they have the right type and if their body can actually deal with it well. So enjoy your coffee, but don't overdo it.
Well, Doc, I agree with you 100%. At one time, I used to wake up and have coffee at home. I went to my doctor. I said, "Are you drinking too much coffee because your pressure is imbalanced?" And I had to reduce to 1, and sometimes I skip it. Doc, I appreciate you. I thank you. Thank you for being generous with your time. People, you can follow our dog on Twitter. This is not even something we need to repeat. Everybody knows you on Twitter. Follow this posting. When we post it, we'll make sure we share it on all our social media. I appreciate the time you have given us. You have saved a life, if not lives, by giving us time, giving us these 7 principles. We can't wait for your new book. I will see you when you get stateside or when I get Uganda side. Have an amazing day, and you can close us out. Any promotion, any word you want to tell our readers, once you are done, we'll close out.
First of all, I want to thank you, Jack, for having me on this session with you, because you are one of the people who is changing lives. And we need to celebrate people like you more. The work you do with Nyaka is phenomenal. The work you do with people like, us, because it's people like us who are watching this and who are plugged in. And, sometimes it's a small little, moment on a call like this that triggers a spark in someone's life that makes a change. So I really want to thank you for that. I want to close by saying that it's an exciting time to be alive, but you cannot be alive, unless you're healthy, and you cannot be healthy unless you are deliberate about it. Many people sacrifice their health for pleasure and wealth, but they say many people have to sell their wealth to get back their health. All I can say is that start with awareness, then take baby steps, crawl, walk, and then run. You don't necessarily have to do everything right now, but get that awareness, take action. And where you need help, plug into groups like these that allow you to stay accountable. And believe me, the sky is the limit. Extraordinary Wellness is yours for the making and taking. And look forward to the book, Extraordinary Wellness.
Thank you. The best is yet to come, ladies and gentlemen.